my gosh, if there's one thing I could change, it would be consistent childcare. And
Yeah.
my other girlfriend, who is also a big role, a huge responsibility, and she travels all over the country. She's like, the hardest, most stressful part, it's not even the job, which is stressful and demanding, it's the childcare aspect. So, even like a nanny share or something, I don't know, I would try to figure it out earlier when they say get on those waiting lists, all the things, do all the things, do all that research before you even get pregnant, I would say, because it's super important, sign up with mom sub and make sure that they're preparing, so when that little baby comes out, that they're fully trained and you have the right person and you feel good about it. So childcare is the number one stress about being a working mom, 100%.
Welcome to Women and Work, the show where we take an inside look at how women are overcoming our own unique challenges as we grow our careers or build a business while nurturing relationships and family. I'm Diane Mocha, founder and CEO of MomSub, the childcare app that connects you to a substitute mom. And I want you to know that work can fit your life. Each week, we meet a woman who has done that. Today, I'm with Laura Benarosch. Did I pronounce that right, Laura?
You sure did. I'm super impressed. Nobody ever
Awesome.
does.
I usually ask beforehand, but we got so involved in talking about your career in Mom Sub that I forgot to. And I want to
Yeah.
tell our viewers that for the past 12 years, you have been the Chief Operating Officer of Concierge Aesthetics and Plastic Surgery, a med spa in Chicago, correct?
Correct.
Well, thank you for being here, Laura.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm super excited. You're super interesting and I love what you're doing. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. And I love what you're doing. And you've had a lot of different things you've done in your career. You worked previously for med spas where you helped them turn around their business and become profitable. You were an account manager for a while for a recruiting firm. You spent
Hmm.
3 years as a VP at a sports marketing agency. You said you
Super
were working
fun.
with celebrities. I wonder
Yeah.
if that role had you working more with men, because I know you work a lot with women. And I want to
Yeah.
talk about that a little because I want
Hmm.
to talk about some of the challenges you faced in your career,
Sure.
especially because you were a woman. What do you
Hmm.
think is the biggest challenge you faced as a woman?
Oh my goodness. I think fair pay is what every woman, faces. I think I was upset a few times when I found out somebody with less experience doing a lesser job than I was doing, but making more than I was a little frustrating. And that definitely happens more in corporate America than I would say in smaller businesses for sure. So that's definitely reality, but you can't let it get to you. You have to figure out a way to win. And that's something that instead of being upset or angry or pouting about it, you say, okay, this is the reality of the situation. How am I going to figure out a way to be successful with what I have and what I can do? So that's what I did.
And so tell me a little more about that because our viewers and listeners want to know how did you turn that around? I want to know, first of all, how you even found out because I think there should be so much more transparency in the workplace about
Sure.
what everyone makes, right? The more we talk about it, the more educated we are, but we've been trained, oh, don't tell your coworkers what you make. But
Hmm.
that works to a disadvantage for a lot of employees, especially women. So how did you learn? What was your reaction? What
Sure.
did you do and how did you find the win in that?
Yeah, and I have to say, sometimes I agree with not talking about it because if you are the person making the most money in the room, you can cause some problems. So you have to tread lightly. It was purely an accident. I was training, and this gentleman was literally probably 15 years younger than me, just graduated college, and he was complaining about it was the year-end bonuses and how they paid for his relocation package, which I was like, wow, that was really generous. And he's only making X and he said his salary. And I was like, I obviously didn't share what I made. I didn't want him to know. So I just like, oh, really? And then he's like, and my bonus structure was this, and they're not giving it to me because of X. They're only going to give me Y. And his Y was still even larger than my X. So he is his not hitting his bonus and not hitting his numbers. He was still going to make a larger bonus than what I was going to make. And I did hit my number. And he was already walking into an established vertical where they hired me to create a whole new vertical where nobody had done this job before. They wanted to break into this new space. And so I was like, sure, I am pioneer. I love it. I am not scared of a challenge. I will put the work in. I will do it. And I did. And I made it very successful. They have hired people after me to take that role. And it's now a profitable vertical for that organization. But I was really taken back when I found out that someone I was training was making more than I was making, you know. So it was upsetting. And I was like, wow, is it just because he's a man? You
Was this at the
know,
sports marketing agency?
I don't want to say which company it was
Okay,
because I
that's fine.
never feel, yeah, but
Was
it's
it an
just,
industry that was traditionally male dominated?
mhm. Well, I will say in my sports marketing, that company, there was the owners were men, but the majority of the employees were women, actually.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
women, we just work harder. I think we sacrifice more, one, because we feel we have to, and we have to work twice as hard sometimes to be, in the same place, and
And
that's
and
something
prove
that,
ourselves. Yeah.
yeah, we have to prove ourselves. We feel we have to prove ourselves for sure.
And sometimes we do if we're not given the credit that we deserve. So did you
Yeah.
march into your boss's office and say, I just learned this and I want to make this, or I'm walking out the door?
Never. No, you have to be more strategic than that. And that's, I think, the mistake that a lot of people do is they're like, oh my God, I heard this and I went, and then you're perceived as like hostile, right? You're disgruntled, hostile, annoying, all the bad things. You have to be strategic about it. Then I pulled up all of the accomplishments that I had done that year. And I walked in for my review and I said, I am so excited to be here. You hired me to do X. I have accomplished X and then some. And I asked for the money. I didn't say anything about knowing what anybody else made. I didn't say anything about it and I got it. And I asked for more than what the other person was making. So a lot of times
And
is
you got it.
and I got it. So I think a lot of times we're just scared to ask. And
Yes.
sometimes men aren't scared to ask. We feel like, oh, we're lucky to get what we received. And it's not even, I will tell you this, it's not even just men to women, it's women to women too. There are some times in my career where I've had a female boss and, someone who's doing less work than me is making more. It's because I didn't ask for more. That person was bold enough and knew their worth and said, I feel I'm worth this. And therefore they got it. So I always say it doesn't hurt to ask. You should always just ask and, go from there. But have a reason why. Not just like, oh, my bills are this. This is what I hear a lot. My mortgage is this, my car payment is this. That has nothing to do
Yeah.
with your employer, what your personal bills are. What are you bringing to the company? Not what you need to survive. It's what value are you bringing to the organization and then putting a price tag why you deserve this, because this is how you're going to help them grow. This is how you're going to help them retain clients, whatever your skill set is, and why you're the value add. And every year when you go in for a review, not just like, hey, I need a cost of living, I've been here, I'm loyal. What have you done to help move the needle, move the organization forward? I think sometimes we get really complacent and we're like, well, I just show up every day, therefore I'm entitled. And that's not really the case. So, what are you doing to grow and make the organization better?
Wow. And that reminds me of a talk I saw at the Grace Hopper celebration, which is for women in tech. And the woman on stage talked about the brag book that every woman should have.
Mhm.
And so this isn't just something she said that you should bring up at review time, but you should strategically, throughout the year as you're accomplishing things, letting others know without necessarily, making it seem like a brag, but women sometimes shy away from stepping in and taking credit for the things that they've done, or don't speak up if somebody else gets credit for something they've done, or they just don't even bring to the fore, all that they're doing because they're so busy accomplishing everything, like you said, being that type A person,
Mhm.
that they're not taking the time to recognize the importance of letting
Sure.
others know I'm doing this and this and this and this, and it's leading to
Yeah.
that. And that's why the company is getting this value. And here's the value, and sitting down and calculating it, and you have to
Mhm.
have a little bit of that bravado in yourself to say,
Mhm.
I'm going to calculate how much money I made the company or saved the company or
Yes.
made with this project or increased, the revenue in this department since I
Mhm.
took over. And so being aware of that and letting others know is part
For
of all
sure.
of that. But then
I
of
call it
course,
like,
yeah, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. No, as I say, I call it like credentialing yourself. So in
Hmm.
my business now, I always tell the providers when you walk into a room with a patient, you need to tell them why they need to trust you. You have to credential yourself. I've been doing this for X amount of years. I constantly do continuing education and advanced training. So I have my thumb on the pulse of the latest techniques and safety measures. So they know, okay, I'm with a safe provider who knows what they're doing, who's educated. It's the same. And when I sit down, hi, I've been in this industry for 20 years. There isn't anything that I haven't tried. I'm going to walk you through and hold your hand every step of the way because I probably have done it myself, so on and so forth, making sure that they know that I understand what I'm doing. And it's the same in your career. You know, hi, I've accomplished these 5 things. I'm super excited and passionate about it because I love helping the organization grow and I want us to be successful. And I'm so happy to be a part of it. And I think a lot of times we go the negative route instead of the positive route, and that is, I sometimes think it's the beginning of the downfall of our careers is when we become upset, bitter, angry. You can't. You have to keep selling yourself pretty much is what it is. You're basically selling yourself all the time.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and sometimes we just assume others know like what we're doing and how
Yes.
hard we're
And they
working
don't.
and what we're achieving, and they don't. Yeah, everyone's
Yeah.
focused on their own thing. And so then things start to change in our careers when family obligations come along. So
Yes.
tell me where you were in your career when
Yeah.
you knew you wanted to have children, and then what happened when children came along, and how did you
Yeah.
adapt to that?
Yeah, so I'm a workaholic. I mean, if anybody knows me, and I hate to say it, and I'm trying to change this now. I think on my tombstone, people will be like, "She's the hardest working woman I've ever met," and that's not necessarily a good thing when you're a mother. So I was really established in my career, and it was definitely I didn't. I got married later in my career in life, I should say. I was in my mid 30s before I even got married. In my late 30s and 41 when I had my second child. So definitely not, 25 having babies. So physically, I'm more tired than a younger mom per se. And it was a huge shift. And I mean, my days are packed, and a sick child just like derails life in a big way. And having children, like even taking off from maternity leave was, I mean, I worked through my maternity leave. I was taking calls and all the things, breastfeeding with a baby. I just made sure my Zoom camera was like this. So I had that little shawl over me to make sure nobody could see anything. But, it was definitely a challenge. And the biggest challenge is finding childcare. I cannot express enough, whether it's budget, availability, will they take your child because of the age? With my second child, I went back to work after 6 weeks. So I had to find a caregiver that would take a 6-week-old baby, and my first child, I had a nanny who had a really sick child herself. And so literally it was like 3 days a week, my child's sick. So you have to come get your child, all these things, super stressful. So it was really hard, and it's really hard to navigate. I think that I had to shift. I had to shift and start saying no to more things. Where like, hey, I have to be a mom. So I'm not able to commit to this. I can't travel as much. I left when I was a celebrity broker. I had to leave that when I had my first child because I had to travel. I was in New York at least 1 week a month. I would travel. I was the global VP. So I traveled worldwide. One of our biggest clients was in London. So traveling abroad. And I remember I was stuck. I think it was in London, and I had a week and a half worth of frozen breast milk. And they told me that the flight was delayed by like 5 hours. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, all this breast milk is going to go bad. Thank God the pilot had a brand new baby and he took it and he goes, I'm going to put this in the pilot's freezer for me. Lifesaver. I wish I had that guy's name, but bless his heart, saved all that milk because I took the time in between my meetings to schedule the pump, all the things. But I was like, oh my God, I can't keep doing this. This is insanity, and the stress of going through security with breast milk, making sure it's all frozen, calling the hotels in advance, making sure they can put a freezer in your room, all these things. So I was like, I need to be local. And that's when I came back to the med spa industry because yes, sometimes they are long days, but I was home every night with my babies. So, but childcare is huge. It's a huge problem. And I love what you're doing. I mean, this is a game changer. You're going to save so many busy working moms from the stress and the burden and the anxiety that goes along with what do I do? So it's a great service. Like, God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
We were talking about those challenges earlier, and you talk about this change that you had to make away from the travel and leaving a career and in a position that you enjoyed. And I wonder how you viewed it. I interviewed someone recently who had to make a shift because she felt like her son needed more of her and was not thriving because of it. And she did it because it was necessary, but she felt the whole time it was a sacrifice and was really unhappy about it. And and when she looks back on it, she recognizes like, hey, it was this great bonding and I should have had a little bit better attitude at the time, but and she got back into her career and built it up, but she really did look at it as this is something I don't want to do, but I have to do. And it's I'm just the mom martyr, and I wonder if you viewed it that way, if you thought, okay, this is just a new stage in life and I'm going to embrace that, and how hard it was, if you
Yeah.
enjoyed that travel and you really missed, that position. What did you
Yeah.
think about
Oh, I
balance?
love that position. And I think sometimes because that was, 12 years ago, I think like, wow, where would I be if I would have stayed? Where would that, because I had just started in that career and it was super exciting and fun, obviously. But, I think when you decide to be a mother, you decide that your life is now sacrificed. It is no longer yours. One reason why I waited so long to become a mother is because I'm selfish. And I knew that that's what motherhood is you are no longer selfish. It is no longer your life to lead. You are now uh, you are now sacrificing. I don't like to use the word martyr per se, because you knowingly go into it. I mean, you know that this is what it is. I will tell you, if my dad were still alive, when I gave birth to my first child, I called my dad and my mom, and they wish they would have recorded the call. I'm like, I am so sorry for being such a horrible child. I didn't know the sacrifices. And I was like bawling, that you made to be a parent. And if you haven't thanked your mom and dad for all the sacrifices that they have made, please do so because it's a sacrifice. I'm not bitter or angry about it at all. I mean, it's where I'm supposed to be. I wouldn't be the COO of where I am today if I would have stayed there. Who knows where? And I love what I'm doing now. And I don't know if I would even given the opportunity if I didn't have kids. I probably wouldn't even entertained it. I wouldn't even have thought twice about it. So look where I'm at. I love where I'm at and I love the life I'm leading today. At the time, was it a sacrifice? Sure. But I mean, that's part of being a mom is sacrifice. You have to
Mm.
you love those little babies more than you love yourself. So you have to give up sometimes on things that you need or want, to help give them what they need and want.
And so tell me how you're doing the balance now. How old are your kids? How many do you have? Do you
Sure.
have a spouse? Are you doing it on your own? And what are you doing day to day to
Yeah.
manage this career, all these responsibilities? You've helped this company grow so much, you carry so
Yeah.
much on your shoulders, and then you have, of course, all the responsibilities we all know who are parents, of being a mother.
Yeah. So my life took I would say COVID affected a lot of people and a lot of marriages, and I am no exception. My ex-husband he was in IT, so he worked from home. So which him working from home allowed me to build concierge because he would pick the kids up because they were right down the street. It was super easy for him to go grab them, and he was with them until I got home. So that was something that I definitely probably didn't realize was so huge. So anybody who has a stay-at-home parent at home, it is really one, a financial assist for you too, because childcare is not inexpensive. So then he abruptly left, and not just left me, but left the country. He decided that he did not want to live here anymore. He didn't want to work anymore. And so he left, and he lives in the Philippines now. And so I was literally on my own instantly, like that, financially and emotionally, and being a caregiver. So I had to drastically adjust my schedule, and oh my gosh, calling people, hey, can you bring the kids home? Hey, can you watch the kids? Hey, can you do a play date? All these things when I had late meetings or patients that I had to treat or whatever it was. So it was like a daily stress, constantly while I was looking for a nanny. And it's part-time though too, because they're in school. So it's not like a full-time nanny. It's not like I think it's easier sometimes to find a full-time person
It
than it is
is.
to find a part-time person, you know? If you're like, oh, I only need you 3 to 4 hours a day, they're kind of like, so
Mhm.
you have that problem. And it was definitely a challenge for sure. It was crazy. Then shortly after, my older son, so I have an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And so that I had to take a month off of work, pretty much, work remotely in his school, to help him adjust and the staff to adjust to this. There was the first child they ever had with type 1 diabetes. And it was emotionally hard on my son too, as the whole family. So they say when one person in the family has type 1 diabetes, the whole family really has type 1 diabetes. The alarms go off in the middle of the night, it's constant. And then after he had type 1 diabetes, he then found out that he had celiac disease on top of it. So he couldn't eat gluten. So we had to go to gluten free on top of it. So it's been super exciting. And he got diagnosed when he was 9. And so now he's 11. So we're at 2 years in, and it's something. But then finding a caregiver that can now be willing to work with someone with type 1 diabetes on top of it, and understanding what it means when the alarm goes off. He has to take insulin every time he eats, all of those things. And having a child that doesn't want to do that. So then you have to have a caregiver that's monitoring and making sure it's happening, you know, a lot of people don't. So I did have a really nice caregiver that was like, yeah, I'm not comfortable with the type 1 diabetes thing. So then I had to start the whole process all over again. Super stressful. I had to leave work early some days so I could go pick them up because the aftercare ended at 5. So at 5:01, they're like on the street, So you're like, oh my gosh. So I would schedule meetings and I would do all my Zooms then at night instead of during the day. So when I had to be present in the practice, I was present in the practice and then took Zooms at 5 o'clock. So I'd leave work at 4, go grab them, be home by 5, and then continue working for another 2 hours. So it's a lot. If there's a will, there's a way, is what I tell people. So don't give up, but just, I work out every morning at 5 a.m. to keep my sanity,
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yes, that's so important. So
Yes.
you've learned so much during this journey, and I wonder if you could go back to an earlier time, knowing then what you know now. What's one thing you could change as a working mom in this crazy up and down journey?
Oh my gosh. If there's one thing I could change, it would be consistent childcare. And
Yeah.
my other girlfriend, who is also a big role, a huge responsibility, and she travels all over the country. She's like, the hardest, most stressful part, it's not even the job, which is stressful and demanding, it's the childcare aspect. So, even like a nanny share or something, I don't know, I would try to figure it out earlier when they say get on those waiting lists, all the things, do all that research before you even get pregnant, I would say, because it's super important, sign up with mom sub and make sure that they're preparing, so when that little baby comes out, that they're fully trained and you have the right person and you feel good about it. So childcare is the number one stress about being a working mom, 100%.
Wow. Well, thank you, Laura, so much for everything that you've shared and for your validation for the hard work that we're doing because
Yes.
we want to take on that stress that we know the parents are experiencing, and it is hard, and we
So
want to
hard.
do that so that you can focus on your family and your career
Mhm.
and not worry about that piece. And we want to share the kind of inspiration that you have shared with us today with our viewers and our listeners, so they know that when they're confronting these challenges, there is help out there. There's people that can help, and there's ways you can help yourself in your career and making more money. So if
Yeah.
you were inspired by this story today, remember to share it with a friend, leave a review, and subscribe to meet our next amazing guest. If you or anyone you know is struggling to find the right childcare, check out Mom Sub's free webinar that guides families through the steps to find and keep trusted, reliable childcare at momsub.com/webinar. That's Mom Sub, like a substitute mom. And you can, of course, connect with Mom Sub on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Our mission is for you to discover what you want in life, pursue it with intensity, reach out for help when needed, and fulfill your dream, reducing your stress, guilt, and self criticism, and increasing your calm, confidence, and clarity along the way. Remember, your career, your choices, and your success are yours to define. So keep pushing boundaries and spreading your love and encouragement to other women who need it.